What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to the KellyCast. If this is your first time here, welcome for the first time. I'm your host, Dan Kelly. This is a football podcast. We talk about the latest in the NFL, analyzing predictions, and of course, as you can see by the set, a lot of Bills content. And that's what we're here to talk about today, the Bills' performance against the Miami Dolphins last night. We're going to be talking Tua's injury. We're going to go back to the live stream, talk about the Kelly's keys to the game, see if they played any kind of factor to see if what we're saying here on the channel is helping you. And of course, talk about the big performers and overall how the Bills did. So first off, I want to start with Buffalo's side. We'll get into Tua in just a little bit. I think that's obviously a different kind of tone that I need for that. So let's start with the Bills. Obviously in this game, they won by a pretty big margin. 31-10 was the final score. Tua now 1-7 against the Buffalo Bills. I know he didn't finish the game, but he did play the majority of it, 3 interceptions up until that time that he got that concussion. The Buffalo Bills, they looked good, man, and it was prime time. Everybody was watching to see how the team was going to perform without Diggs, without Davis. I know last week was, the home opener, and a lot of people watched that too, but the national media is kind of getting their first look at the Bills this season, and the way it looked, my goodness, was it different from last week against that performance from Arizona. James Cook averaged around 3 yards per carry last week. And this week, he averaged 7.1, 11 carries, 78 yards, 2 scores on the ground, 1 score in the air, 17-yard reception. Josh played a different brand of football, let's be honest, right? And maybe it wasn't the most different, right? I don't think he struggled. We definitely put an emphasis on the run game, 24 rushes to 19 passes. To see a Josh Allen game where he throws less than 20 passes is pretty insane. But overall, he played efficient. He played well enough for the Bills to win. He did not make any mistakes, and 1 touchdown on the day. So really good performance by him. Obviously, the shining star, James Cook. We'll get into him a little bit later. Khalil Shakir had a really good first half, and then I kind of saw him disappear. 5 receptions, 54 yards. I would have really liked to see a lot of Keon Coleman in this one, but it turns out he was blanketed for most of the game, and I don't even know if he was targeted with a pass, let alone I know he didn't catch one. But I think it's time to move into the injury to Tua Tagovailoa. And, man, some things just transcend football, right? And I think this is one of those situations. I remember exactly what happened. Tua lowers his head into Damar Hamlin's chest, and first of all, it's not the right move in a football setting right there. I understand it's 4th down. You're going for a first down. You got to do what you got to do. He already had the first down, and I was watching the post game, and Tony Gonzalez, former tight end, mentioned that he lowered his shoulder, but that was not his shoulder that he lowered. Tua lowered his head, and that is not the way you play football. The Steelers linebacker, why am I forgetting his name right now, with alopecia? I'm trying to remember his name. I can't come up with it, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Ryan Shazier. There we go. It came to me. I know my football. When he had his big neck injury that forced him to retire at a young age, it was his fault. And, it hurts to say sometimes because you obviously feel bad. And when he went down, I was watching the game with the family, and they're like, somebody mentioned, hey, that's a Dolphins player. Like, what's the problem? And the problem is that this is Tua we're talking about, a guy who's dealt with way too many concussions. I was asked the question, hey, can the NFL force him out? And honestly, I don't know if they could ban him from the league for like safety reasons or precautions. But Tua's got 2 kids, a wife. They said it on the broadcast last night. You feel so bad, man. Like, he's just dealt with so much. And I get adversity. Injuries are a part of the game, but nobody wants to see this. Everybody kind of felt it when Tua went down. And I'm hoping for a speedy recovery. I hope he sees the field again, but I hope Miami takes the proper precautions because in the past, I don't believe they have. I think they were reckless with Tua's health, and that's why, he suffered a couple of injuries because they played him before he was ready. But I am really hoping for good things for Tua in the near future. I hope he misses a couple games just so he can get back to his normal self and back to his healthy self. Let's move on to the Kelly's keys to the game. Now, if you missed the Buffalo Bills live stream last night, it was a riot. Me and Mike were having fun. We were bouncing topics off of each other, going left, right, and center. When we ended, Mike said it was kind of like a Pat McAfee show kind of vibe. So if you like that kind of thing, be sure to check it out. And Mike will be back next week on the KellyCast. But for now, you just got me. The Kelly's keys to the game. So we'll start with me. And I mentioned that the tight ends needed to get involved if the Bills were going to have any success in this game. And Dalton Kincaid, he got involved a little bit, right? 4 receptions, 33 yards, averaged around 8 per carry. I saw him running hard, and you love to see it. Obviously, on that play up against Jalen Phillips when he's on the sideline and he fights for extra yards, you love to see those kind of situations. I would have wanted to see him a little bit more involved, but obviously the game plan in this for the Bills in this matchup was to run the football, was to play smash mouth ball, and that's exactly what they did. Dalton Kincaid, solid. Dawson Knox did not end up on the stat sheet, so I'm sure he threw some good blocks, and if I rewatched the tape, that's what I would see. But the other key to the game from Mike was that the Bills needed to get their pass rush going up against Tua, and ultimately, I think they did. Von Miller got his second sack for the second week in a row. You love to see it. I think he's got some extra juice now this season. And one other sack for the Bills on the day. You obviously saw the interceptions. I was very impressed with the way that Christian Benford played. He looked like a very big kind of effort guy out there, and I really loved that. Jordan Poyer got that penalty when he lowered the shoulder up against Khalil Shakir. It looked like a shoulder to me. I think they called it helmet to helmet. It was kind of close. It was interesting that it was Poyer, though, because he's done that many times for the Bills, and I know, we defended it. So I'm not here to point fingers, but it was just interesting to see that called on him. Moving on to the Kelly's knockout performance of the week.
You want to ring the bell, Apollo?
All right. Ding, ding.
All right, your knockout performance of the week goes to none other than defensive back Jamarcus Ingram. Now, I did not expect Jamarcus Ingram to have the performance that he did. Now, was it a little bit of luck? Was it a little bit of being at the right place at the right time? It was, 100%. But, one of his interceptions was a tip ball. The other one was a pick six. So he really prepared for this game up against Miami, and I appreciate that, and we're going to need it, obviously, with missing Taron Johnson and Matt Milano. The secondary really stepped up. And going back to Tua a little bit, mentioning DeMar in this situation, they talked about it a little bit after the game in terms of, when it happened. You got to wonder how he's feeling, obviously, because of the health issues that he's had on the field. And you feel bad, but this wasn't Damar Hamlin's fault. It was Tua's fault, like, at the end of the day. And I understand that some people might be thinking of that as a rude statement or as me coming after him because I'm a Bills fan or whatever, but that's not what it is. It's just that's not the way you're trained to play football. At the end of the day, that's how I feel about that situation. We're going to move on here and mention Mr. James Cook because we mentioned it a little bit earlier, his stats, but it really cannot go without saying this man was the Buffalo Bills in this game. 11 carries, 3 touchdowns. He had as many touchdowns on the ground in last night's game as he had on the ground all of last season, right? And he didn't drop the wide open pass that we've seen him do in the past. And we saw him dive into the end zone the way he can. He mentioned after the game he had maybe 40 family members in the stand. So I'm glad they got to see him put on a show. The Bills' leading tackler for the day was Damar Hamlin with 8 tackles. You love to see it. Terrell Bernard got hurt during this game, and he did not come back. Balin Spector played the majority of the snaps, and it was weird to see 54 in the middle of the Bills' defense just because I'm so not used to that. So I'd be interested to see how he is if the Bills suffered any other injuries during this game. how Josh's hand is going to work moving forward, because as people mentioned, it is his non-throwing hand, and I understand that. It affects his game in one way or another. Maybe it's the mentality, because we know Josh would play with any injury if the doctors allowed him. But overall, guys, the Bills had a very good game, obviously winning by a good margin here in the AFC East. Another stat for you. I know you know the Tua 1-7. He is 11-0 against the other AFC East teams. Both the Jets and the Patriots he has never lost to. And the Bills, for some reason, is his kryptonite. And James Cook showing that Josh Allen is not the only one who owns the Miami Dolphins. But for now, that's all the time I have for this video. Bills and Dolphins. Bills get the win. They're 2-0. Their next game up against Jacksonville. Myself and Mike, the KellyCast, will be at the game. We're attempting to make some videos and go live from that location. We'll see how that turns out. But until the next video, I'm Dan Kelly for the KellyCast Season 2. This time, it's personal. Stay up to date with all the KellyCast predictions on Facebook. Here on YouTube, there'll be more videos coming out later today. Take it easy. But for now.